Okay, now this is the second video dedicated to this video series, which is probably going to be at least 3 or 4 videos. The title of this video is going to be Remote Neural Monitoring Eye Lens Implants, okay, and Gang Stalking. I just concluded the first video. Now I'm going to regurgitate some small statements, very small amount of statements, dedicated to where I left off at in the first video. Bear with me one second, I got to find something real fast. Now, the first video was exposing many things. The first video exposed 2 segments of an audio file that I'm getting ready to refer back to here in a second. I'm bringing it up now, and then I got to fast forward into it, so bear with me. Sorry about all the delays, but this is all necessary, so just stay with me. Don't go nowhere. Now, in the first video, I showed many things. I showed these remote neural monitoring eye lens implants. I discussed when they were caught, how they were caught, what caused them to be caught, and I also discussed that you should take that YouTube URL link that you're seeing right now on your home screen or on your computer monitor, and you should write that URL link down, type it in at your URL address bar, and then bring it up. Okay? And listen to everything, especially concerning what's discussed and disclosed pertaining to the biofilm eye lens implants. And these biofilm light crystal ocular eye lens implants directly interface with remote neural monitoring. These are in both of my eyes, non-consensually. And in the first video, hold on. In the first video, I discussed how they became outwardly transparently visible. They're still there. Okay, in fact, they were just caught in another video. They've been caught in many videos. Those are photos from a live Periscope broadcast that was made live on June 3rd, 2020. Bear with me one second. I'm trying to rewind an audio file here. Now I got to fast forward it because I went too far. Because I'm going to play a clip from it, and then I'm going to segue into where I left off at in the end of the second video, of the first video. Because this is, once I start playing this audio file and then make statements right after it, you can view that as being where I'm segueing from that part in the first video that was made. Okay, so bear with me. I'm almost there. Okay, now I want you to listen to this, especially notate the part where they talk about voice of skull and where the woman talks about hearing how victims are claiming that they're hearing footsteps in their homes and behind them. So listen well.
Think about, what they could be doing now, no longer needing to use, mass trauma or sexual abuse or drugs. Could it all be done remotely with...
Yeah, and one of the big questions was, well, after all these Senate hearings and after congressional attention was focused on MKUltra and it was shut down, quote unquote, did it continue? Well, yes. I mean, I think that we all know that these things don't just go away. However, what I think obviously happened was that it naturally morphed into a much more sophisticated method of mind control, of surveillance, of controlling people. And so today we have things like electronic and microwave harassment. We have this wonderful technology that's been patented since the 1960s called V2K, voice-to-skull technology, where you can literally send pulses into somebody's brain, and they will receive them, they will hear them as clicks or tones and even voices, usually words or short phrases. So now we can get into people's heads from a distance. We don't have to take them when they're 4 years old from their family, often some black car with blacked out windows to some remote location. We can be controlled from a remote location, and we don't even know it.
Many people listening, Marie, when they hear, okay, someone's hearing voices in their head, they automatically assume schizophrenia. How do we separate cases of mental illness, psychosis, paranoid delusion, schizophrenia from someone who is in fact being targeted? And apparently by some estimates there are something like 300,000 North Americans.
Yeah. And I think that's just the people that are willing to talk about it. It's like when you try to estimate how many people have been raped. Well, let me tell you, most women will never report it. So that's only the people that have become aware that something was happening to them. And again, you think about something like schizophrenia. When somebody hears voices in their head, they go to the doctor. That's going to be one of the diagnoses that they come up with. Nobody is going to say to them, well, you may be a victim of non-lethal harassment. It's just not going to happen unless you have a really smart doctor who's up on this. But hearing the voices in the head or the clicks or the pulses or the tones is just one of the many symptoms associated with someone who is under this kind of harassment. And I'll just read a few. We have a whole list in here of what people have reported, but hallucinations, extreme fatigue and headaches, excruciating headaches that come on suddenly, mysterious skin rashes, uncontrollable twitches. People may hear footsteps inside, outside, or around their home when there's nobody there. Just a surreal sense of being watched. Some people are gang stalked, and this is literally, they're stalked by a group of individuals who follow them, who call their name out. They hear their name in conversations, and there's a group of people that they can't even identify. Some people have reported writing where they'll be out on the freeway or on a side street, and some people will turn their headlights on, and it just keeps happening over and over, so it's not a coincidence. Strange objects being left in their homes or near their homes, in their workplace, noise harassment.
Okay, now, they've come on every wooded area property that I have been forced to utilize in San Diego because this crime made me homeless from 4 apartments in Dearborn, Michigan, and 1 in Tennessee. Okay, they broke into my apartments in Dearborn, Michigan. They entered my apartment in Tennessee, and ever since I decided to just stay homeless because I know they'll just continue to make me homeless if I get an apartment while I go through thousands of dollars and just end up homeless again. I decided to stay homeless. So at every single wooded area that I have used in San Diego since August 8, 2011, they have come on property and left massive amounts of different visual calling cards. These visual calling cards, when you see those calling cards with these type of remote neuromonitoring islands implants, which are detailed in this video, okay, but make no mistake about it, what's detailed in this video is not the entire usage of them, okay. See, these are remote neuromonitoring islands implants, which are basically, you can Google the following description. Go to Google and type in at Google biofilm light crystal ocular, OCCULAR, islands implants. Okay? And in this video, it shows a book as well. I got that book in my physical possession. I just don't have it right in my immediate environment. That title of that book is called Brain Implants and Messages, Nanomachines, and the Creation of False Memories by Dr. Hildegard. Her name is spelled Hildegarde, Staninger. Staninger is with an I, not an A. Get that book on Amazon. It's only $23. It shows these islands implants in your eye, in the book. It also discusses them by text. And you should also know that when you shine a black UV light on these islands implants, okay, they'll show up as turquoise. Let me show you what they look like. This is literally me right here. This is a picture that's kind of like more black and white of them. And I discussed in the first video of this 2-part video series how they became outwardly transparently invisible. And they've been caught in many, many videos and photos of my eyes and face since then, including today. Okay? This right here is actually from, hold on one second. This right here is actually from a Gmail that I sent on June 3rd, 2020, the day they were discovered in a live Periscope broadcast. These are photos from that live Periscope broadcast. This is what they look like when you shine a black UV light on them. They show up turquoise. Okay? This was taken at this area. Well, actually, it was taken at a spot about 100 feet away. Okay? Now, so, let me go back to showing you one more thing here concerning these. Now, when you take a real good look at these, that's not the first picture I showed you. Let me go back to it. This one right here. You can see, if you look real close at these, you can see that these are dotted arrays of lights, and they are literally on every aspect of the biofilm islands implants, from the corner to the other corner, and they cover at least the entire eye concerning the entire pupil. And these are dotted array of light crystals, enabling them to see through my eyes in real time, 24/7, every second of every day. They see everything I see. It's reported. They record everything you see. And they also have the capacity to send video streams to them. Whatever is sent to them is projected onto them, transferred to the retina, to the optical nerve, to the visual cortex, causing the victim to see whatever is sent on them. The massive amounts of disgusting things that are reported online through the testimony of many other victims are also saying visual cortex manipulation through remote neural monitoring, where they're sending sick, disgusting, vile shit. People being raped, children being hurt, women being raped, people being beat up, and much more. You should also know that these have been reported to play a role in the electronic synthetic dreams gang stalking victims are enduring through remote neural monitoring. You should also know that this was actually photos from that live periscope video, photos taken from the video and then put on Twitter. And then when it posted on Twitter, my tweet ended up right below, above another gang stalking victim. You notice how they put these neural weapons in his tweet? Absolutely, baby cakes. So, you know, now why am I telling you all this? Well, let's segue over into another matter concerning the reported use, what's being reported concerning the use of these technologies by gang stalking victims online. Hold on one second. Now, why was it relevant that I exposed that part of that audio? What you just heard the audio from was from a national radio show where this crime was being discussed and other crimes related to it. Okay. Now, so if they can see through your eyes and send projected video streams to your eyes, causing you to see what is sent to those islands implants in your visual cortex, they can like, all right, so let me give you an example of what I'm referring to here and how all this kind of can play together. I gotta say things cleverly, because labeling gang stalking victims as being mentally ill is one of the main reported crimes done through gang stalking, because that's done for several motivations. One is to discredit the truth the victim is exposing. Google all my statements. Hold on one second, I gotta feed my bird. Here, baby. Here you go. Alright, so anyways, now, so in the first video I went on to talk about voice to skull and voice to skull with voice morphing, and how that, and that, and other sound technology. So you got to watch the other video. Now, if the other video isn't titled right away, you'll know you're in the right video, because both videos are going to have the same title, and I discuss the titles at the beginnings of the videos. So go into the YouTube account you're watching this video through. When you see it, when you bring a video that was uploaded around the same date this one is uploaded, you're going to know you're in the right video, because I say at the beginning of it what the title will be, and I said the same title at the beginning of this one. Because this crime is keeping me so busy, I cannot title the videos right away. Okay, because they're massively disrupting my schedule on a daily basis. The gang stalking right now is controlling my entire life. They're controlling where I live, a circumstance they intentionally put me in, continually creating the homelessness of me from at least 4 known apartments in Michigan. So, how can any sound tech possibly be used in conjunction with, while the islands, what they project onto the islands implants? You need to also research remote neural monitoring and memory mapping and memory stimulation. Now, let me draw you something here real fast. In fact, I don't even need to draw it. Let me just show you this. Do you see this outline of a circle here? So picture this as being a head, okay? Now, you would have the eyes here, one eye here, one eye here, the nose here, and then the mouth here. Then you got the ears over here, okay? So picture this being the face of a human head, okay? The eyes there, the nose there in the middle, and the mouth right there, the ears on the side. Now, in gang stalking crimes, I've already proven to you I got these islands implants in me. And again, remember, that YouTube URL link that you've seen, okay, that I showed you from this picture that I showed you a minute ago, you want to bring that YouTube URL link up, because it exposes a lot of stuff, a lot of additional stuff okay, that these remote neural monitoring islands implants are used for. Remote neural monitoring is called it's not just called remote neural monitoring, it's also called brain to computer interface, because it's literally interfacing with your brain neurologically and your biological system from head to toe from a remote distance. Which is why that woman from this audio from a Coast to Coast AM national radio show said they don't even have to traumatize you anymore like they used to have to back in the old MK Ultra days. Okay? They can do everything they need to do that they used to do back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s now remotely. Because that they can traumatize the brain with directed energy weapons and electromagnetic weapons, which is what made these non-consensual remote neural monitoring islands implants outwardly transparently visible as a result of heating up the brain and the eye fluid and the water in the tissue around the eyes and in the eyes. That's what caused these bubbles to appear. They were literally cooking my brain and my face. Now that pushed out the back part of the remote neural monitoring islands implants that rest on the eyes. It pushed them out, making them transparently visible. Now these same islands implants have been caught in at least 20 videos, 30 videos since. Because I'm continually enduring the same crime every day. Now, if you were to take this outline and view as a human head, right by the ears, right above the ears are your temples. They're right here, right? And then right in the back of the head, at the bottom of the head, right before it starts to reach the neck, are your back and right and left cranium. So if you got your right and left temple, that's dedicated to memories and auditorial processing. The right and left cranium is dedicated to visual processing. And what's the two main reported things that remote neural monitoring is interfacing with the victim? Auditorial, memory mapping and memory stimulation, and visual. I have endured over 5,000 directed energy weapon attacks to the right and left temple and the right and left cranium just in the past 2 years. I endure them every single day, non-stop practically. In fact, the other day when I was out, I endured 50 attacks in less than 9 hours. While I was out and about in the community, including at Bond's grocery store located on Ruby Street and Regents Road, and at this area before I left it. So check this out. Now, how can gang stalking crimes use the islands implant along with other sound technology to achieve one of their main motives of why they're doing what they're doing, which is auditorial and visual entrainment? Because anytime that your brain, picture this as being a series circuit, okay, electronic series circuit diagram. This right here can be considered to be the power source, DC current. So this right here is the circuit itself, and this is the power source connected to it. If you look at Christmas lights that people put on their Christmas tree and might put along the outside of their home during Christmas time, and then you see the lights constantly lit up, or the lights will constantly blink, those Christmas lights are series circuit. So you plug the Christmas lights into the wall, the electrons flow through the circuits, and then each little wavy line you see here can be considered a Christmas light, so it gets lit up. Well, the brain processes information by and through neural pathways. One of the two main goals of gang stalking crimes is to create visual and auditory entrainment. The auditory entrainment can come from the nonstop repeated sounds and words and phrases that are said by and through community members that are placed along the victim's route when the victim goes out and about in the community. But it can also be achieved by and through using sound tech perpetrated through the following sound technologies: voice to skull with voice morphing, ELF broadcasting, okay, holosonics, the audio spotlight, silent sound spread spectrum. So Google all my statements. Now, so whenever a human brain is forced to hear the same exact identical sound, a cacophony of different sounds as well, but right now we'll just talk about the same exact identical sounds, the same exact identical words and phrases. Go to Google and research lawnmowers, landscape working noise, airplanes and helicopter noise to gang stalking sound harassment. Go to Google and research Google gang stalking sensitization method, repeating words and phrases, repeating identical words and phrases, which is one of the main things I endure. Okay? So whenever the brain is forced to hear identical sounds, it creates an auditory resonance and trained pathway, because the brain starts to fixate on it, because the brain is acknowledging that there's no way that these identical sounds, identical words and phrases can be propped up accidentally. It's related to the sensitization method. So when the brain is forced to hear identical repeated sounds, identical repeated words and phrases, whether it be done through people and or sound tech, the brain starts to fixate on it. It's called the frequency, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. The frequency following response. Nick Begich widely reports that in his YouTube videos on YouTube. So just type in Nick Begich and HARP, HARRP, and so on. It's because sounds, including sounds from airplanes, sounds from helicopters, sounds from lawnmowers, sounds from landscaping tools, the sounds of repeated words and phrases that are identical, they have their own specific unique frequency. The brain processes it over and over and over again, and it creates an auditory and trained pathway. Okay? Why do you think victims of gang stalking are claiming that they're hearing identical words and phrases and short statements being repeated through voice to skull, which you just literally heard that woman state from the audio that I just played from the Coast to Coast AM interview, which I believe took place in 2015. And the woman's name, the host of that show on that particular day, was Richard Stewart, and the woman's name was Marie D. Jones. She's the author of the book Mind Wars, Mind Control by Government, and so on. Okay? So when a human brain is forced to hear the same exact identical sounds, and trust me, they can sensitize you to 100 different sounds. That's how bad gang stalking is. No joke. Okay? When the brain processes these sounds, including where they can literally project a bunch of different sounds, a cacophony of sounds, that's done to try and create auditorial schizophrenic neural pathways, and that's a whole nother subject matter, but it's very relevant. Entrainment. But let's just go for like the identical type of sounds. You know, the non-stop repeated loud landscape noise, lawnmower noise, identical words and phrases. Each one of these sounds, believe it or not, has its own unique sound frequency. If you were to download a sound frequency analyzer app on your phone and repeat identical words and phrases into it, you'll see the spectrum jump to a certain frequency point. Okay, when that same word and phrase is exposed, when you say it into the app, and then the light bars will go up, showing you the sound frequency of that word. Okay, let me bring something else up here. In fact, I'm going to probably have to segue into a third video. Let this phone boot up, and I'm going to show you a couple things. So when they create auditory entrainment by constantly bombarding your senses, your hearing, since most things, like 99% of what they prop up is identical. And you should also notate, do you find it funny, do you find it coincidental that they're sensitizing when they're engaging in sound harassment against all victims? The main reported things are identical: landscape noise, lawnmower noise, airplane noise, helicopter noise, and identical repeated words and phrases, either through sound tech and or physical people. Now that's what might be repeated around me might not be the same thing that's repeated around other victims when they're experiencing the community-based gang stalking where that particular technique is applied. But the fact that the same technique is applied where other victims are also reporting people being propped up around them to repeat identical words and phrases. So let me show you this diagram here real fast. This is a pictorial attachment, which you can still find on Google, that used to be attached to UnitedTargetIndividualsEurope.com's website. And I showed this in a video that I just uploaded the other day, and will continue to make other videos concerning it. These have to do with some of the non-consensual implants that are being put in victims. Spinal column implants, implants in the back of my head. Right now I got a bump on the back of my head that you can tell is not natural at all. Okay, and electrical current goes through it every day. Electrical current also goes through the very tip of my head. This right here is a brain implant. Hold on. This right here is a brain implant that's got an antenna lead that goes all the way up to the tip top of the head. I've seen many women and men post on the internet that they're experiencing electronic stings on the very top of their head, and so am I. Now hold on one second. So as soon as I can get this to come into where the reflection of the landscape is not interfering with your ability to see it, take a snap screenshot of this. Okay? And then zoom in on it. Okay, so the brain-to-computer interface implant is midbrain research, midbrain implants and gang stalking, and then the antenna from it reaches all the way up to the top of the scalp, all the way up into the top of the scalp, underneath the scalp, okay, and acts as an antenna so they can remotely access the implant brain-to-computer interface, which is remote neural monitoring. Okay, I feel electronic stings on my head, even burning stings well, let's just put it to you this way. I experience massive burning on the top of my head and massive electronic stings every day. Also to the back of the head and along my spine. And I also got massive issues with my ears. Okay, and this is an ear implant. Do you notice how trigger words are connected to the ear implants? Take snap screenshots of this. And how trigger words are connected to gang stalking. When the trigger words are said, okay, it activates the ear implant, okay, which you see over here. Because the ear implant is interfacing with the brain-to-computer interface implant. Whatever the ear hears goes into the audio cortex. So if you say if you prop up a person to say, is she weird around a female gang stalking victim everywhere she goes, that phrase gets heard in the ear. That phrase gets heard in the ear, which the ear implant has a sound processor. It then goes up to the audio cortex in the brain where the brain-to-computer interface implant's at. That information then gets sent to their computer, the satanic rats who are interfacing with it. Let this zoom back in on it. I don't know why this stopped zooming in on it to where you could see it perfectly. That information then gets sent back to their computer, and then the computer is programmed to execute another function back to the victim when their computer reads out speech to text translation of what the ear implant processed. So when the audio cortex is processing what it hears from the stage prop in the community around the victim, is she weird? The audio cortex processes it. It sends it back through the brain implant back to their computer. It translates it from speech to text, and then their program is programmed so that when that text appears in the computer, the computer then executes another function back to the victim, like voice to skull. Okay? Including voice to skull with voice morphing. So let me give you an example of how the islands implants and the voice to skull can work together. Say if you made a victim homeless and they have propped up physical attacks between the victim and homeless people they use in the crime, right? And so say if the victim is using a specific area that they might go to rest at, that area has got an entrance, which you can kind of see the entrance to this spot right here. So say if you're coming from that direction and then walking up in here, then you're going to see this area with your eyes. They record that. Okay? Then what they can do, as a result of recording it, again, go to Google and research at Google remote neural monitoring and memory mapping, memory stimulation, and the fact that they record what your eyes see. Remember the islands implants. So they record what you see, so they take a photo of that spot, right? And so when they take a photo of that spot, and then when you're approaching the entrance to come to this spot, like say when you're still up there, and then you walk down there to come up in here to then go over there and you see that spot, say if you're still up over there walking towards this way to that spot, what they can do when you get to that spot over there is they can retransmit back this picture onto the islands implants and or into your visual cortex to force you to see it again. And then while they're doing that, they can simultaneously use voice to skull with voice morphing. Is there going to be anybody at my spot? Is he going to assault me? Now that then becomes a visual and auditory trained pathway, because the brain is being forced to process the visual image that they're projecting back into visual cortex and to the islands implant, while the brain is hearing simultaneously voice to skull with voice morphing. Is there going to be a homeless guy in here? Is he going to assault me? Has he stolen my property that got hidden by? And this is how they keep the fear going concerning the crime, because they know that the victim knows that they have used homeless people on prior dates for assault and property theft. So then the victim starts feeling fear, or is it heterodyne fear, which was also discussed in this broadcast and within thousands of videos that have been exposed online. Because if you can heterodyne another victim's fear, because what they're doing is they're harvesting emotional cluster frequencies. Say if you got a victim who don't know they're a victim and who's been implanted, and then their house is getting broken into, all of a sudden they're going to start experiencing extreme fear. Well, since their brain is being monitored, when they're experiencing that fear, their emotions are producing a specific emotional cluster frequency of fear. The perpetrators harvest that emotional cluster frequency of fear and then identify it and then send it to another victim, forcing that other victim's brain to experience fear when these other manipulations are going on, pertaining to projecting the visual image of that spot while V2K with voice morphing is being forced upon the brain. Is there going to be a homeless person, at my area? And so this is how they create a visual and auditorial and trained neural pathway. And this is how they keep the mind in a constant neural loop. And this is how they keep the gang stalking program alive in real time constantly, by forcing the brain to experience a non-stop neural loop of things that are being forced in the brain that they're forcing the brain to process. But trying to make the brain to believe it's an in real-time thought, because gang stalking repeats identical events. So if you've been assaulted at wooded areas, or threatened at wooded areas, or assaulted once and then on one day, and then threatened by the same type of people on other dates when they've staged other staged events, they record all that and then retransmit segments back of that event that they recorded as the victim was experiencing it. And then they try to project aspects of it back into your visual cortex to make you think you're having an in real-time current thought of anticipation of possibly another event being repeated, because they know, the victim knows, that this crime is repeated events against them. So in other words, say if you got a guy in your neighborhood who a neighbor told you about, and the neighbor said this guy's breaking into people's homes. And so he's telling you this on June 1st. Then on June 4th, the person who was told this by the neighbor, his neighbor behind him got his home broken into. Then 2 days later, the neighbor who told you about the other guy. Okay, so let me backtrack. Now, say if you got, because I got to hurry up because I'm approaching the 66-minute mark, and that means the second video will be concluded. So say if you got a guy right here who's been known. Okay, so say you're seeing a picture of a guy, and this guy right here you've been told about is breaking into people's homes by a neighbor. So the neighbor is here, and this neighbor is telling you, your number 3, is telling you about this guy. And so you already know what this guy looks like because you've seen him on prior dates, right? And so then you're told this on June 1st, 6/1. And then on 6/4, you're told by that same neighbor that your neighbor, okay, behind you had his home broken into. Then 2 days after that, you see this guy who that you were told is breaking into people's home. That's going to stimulate the memory of the first time you were told about him. So then every time you go out, you start to wonder, am I going to come back home and find my home broken into? Because now you got a memory reference of what you've been told about this guy connected to a crime that's happened right behind your own home. So when every time you come home, these visual images of that guy and what you've been told about that guy are going to start flashing in your mind. That's what gang stalking does. So every time you had that memory recall, it reinforces the entrained pathway over and over and over again. What they're doing is projecting shit into the visual cortex by stimulating a visual memory that they have mapped